Okay, good afternoon, everyone. We got a difficult slot to talk about a very interesting topic, as it is mobile gaming looking forward. I know that many of the ones that are visiting Barcelona these days, coming from abroad, may expect that everyone in this country is taking a nap at this time, but we will do our best to create a very dynamic panel where you can be excited for the next 55 minutes, and we can learn and discuss about what can we expect about mobile gaming looking forward. I have a very distinguished panel here with me, so before we proceed, I would like to kindly ask each one of them to briefly introduce themselves and their companies. This is going to be the only question in which I will ask, and each one of them will answer one after the other. Afterwards, we will try to create an interesting conversation, debate, and who knows, maybe a strong discussion among the different people sitting here where we can discuss how the future is going to look like. So please, if you are so kind.
Is it on? You can hear me? Good, I can hear myself. So my name is John. I'm the founder of a small startup here in Barcelona. The name is Winko Games. And we started a little over 1 year. Prior to this, I did many different jobs. One of them was in London, working for Google for 5 years. I had a gig at Social Point also for a little while. And we decided with my business partner it was time to create something that we hope would bring something new to the market. And our goal was to focus on what we think was an underserved area of gamers, is the hardcore gamers. So King is taking great care of casual gamers. The mid-core is taken care of, and we believe that hardcore gamers are still playing mostly on console and PC, not so much on mobile. So this is what we want to target.
Thank you.
Yeah, my name is Wedekind. I'm with King for about 4 years now, starting on day one here in Barcelona. Very exciting times, 6 people in the office, hard to imagine today. I started as a product manager doing the first game from King in Barcelona. I worked in business performance for about 2.5 years, which is business performance is King's, let's say, business intelligence and development unit on steroids. And I'm now heading a new labs for King, which is a kind of incubator for new games.
Hi, everybody. I'm Horacio Martos, co-CEO and co-founder of Social Point. We are a Barcelona-based company. We started 7 years ago as a really small startup, more similar with the stage now where Jean-Laurent is now with Winko. And a lot of things happened during these 7 years. Now we are 280 people. We are going to launch 3 new games this year. And I'm super happy to have seen how the gaming hub has grown a lot in Barcelona. Now we have a lot of successful companies like Winko, like King. Also we have companies like Chartboost helping a lot, contributing to the city. So super happy to have this afternoon, this time with all of you.
Hello, my name is Alegre. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Chartboost. I'm the only non-game developer, even if I used to be a game developer. What we do at Chartboost is we help game developers build a business and be successful by finding new players or by making money. And we work with 300,000 game developers, and we reach over 1 billion players every month. And we're based in San Francisco. We have 150 people, and we have an office in Amsterdam and an office in Tokyo. And well, I'm personally from Barcelona. I moved to San Francisco 8 years ago and started Chartboost 5 years ago. I'm very excited to be here with so much gaming talent discussing the future of mobile gaming.
And I'm Morgenstern. I work for TÜV Süd, and I collaborate with ESADE, analyzing and studying the video game industry.
So last but not least, myself, my name is Luis Vives. I'm a professor at the ESADE Business School, and I have the pleasure today to moderate this panel. So without further ado, I would like to start with a brief introduction, providing a perspective on the mobile gaming by Albert. So I would invite Albert to take the stage and give us a 10-minute quick overview on where do we come from and some interesting questions for the future. So.
Thank you. So, okay. Thank you, Luis. I'm glad to be here to talk about the video game industry and what we can expect out of it. However, before we look ahead, we need to know where we come from. The video game industry is still to be considered very young, yet it's been around for over 40 years already. The first console to ever reach the market to mass users was the Atari 2600, followed in 1983 by the Nintendo NES, or also known as Famicom. Ever since, dozens and dozens of consoles were released, and the market grew, and so did the competition, with console wars taking place first with Nintendo versus Sega, Sony versus Nintendo, or Microsoft versus Sony. Let's take a quick look about a few consoles that really influenced the mobile gaming industry. Obviously, first, we have to talk about the Game Boy. This little guy, released in 1989, was the pioneer to what mobile gaming is today. Taking into account all its models, it sold over 150 million units. Not bad for a little guy, right? Next, we have the Nintendo Wii. This console is not relevant because of its success in sales, with over 100 million of units sold, but because of how they managed to move away from the competition and create their very own market. It's the disruption of the industry that really sets this console apart. Finally, I want to talk about the smartphones. First, with the Apple iPhone released in 2007, with Android devices and the App Store in 2008, and following, in general, tablets around 2010. Even though they're not really consoles, nowadays, the user giving is very similar to it, if not completely the same. And if the prior numbers looked amazing, brace yourselves, Apple has managed to sell up to 700 million phones up to date. The iPad is not looking too shady either, with 250 million units sold so far. Together, they combined close to 1 billion units, which represent quite a large user base. And we're not even taking into account all the Android users, which, according to Google, represent 1.4 billion active users. Altogether, this creates a very large market that is very attractive for everybody. Let's take a closer look about how they managed to disrupt the industry. First, Nintendo with their Wii. They were in the middle of a console war focused on technical specification. And they didn't want to take part on this, releasing a more powerful console and competing for the same user base that Sony and Microsoft were already fighting for. Instead, they released a new console focused on casual gamers. They were the first console manufacturer who focused on this segment. And doing so, they created a more relaxed and social experience as gaming. Furthermore, they managed to create their very own market at what we call the blue ocean, in which they were the only player benefiting from it for many years. Smartphones have changed the way we game. They changed portable gaming to mobile gaming and what is today this industry. They did so because not only did they manage to take away the barriers to entry for many gamers, as you didn't have to buy a console, but your phone, but they also managed to make it always available. No matter where you were, you just grabbed into your pocket and started playing. Furthermore, this changed who the target user was. As everybody had a phone, it started appealing for everybody, no matter their gender or their age. This also created a very new concept of gamers, the mid-core gamers. And finally, this also influenced the business models, allowing freemium to finally become mainstream and hold its dominating position ever since. Let's take a quick look at the numbers. This industry has been growing non-stop since 2007, up to the point where last year, in 2015, for the first time in history, they managed to surpass the revenues for console games. This is quite a historical date. The industry is very interesting and has released a lot of very interesting titles. Let's take a closer look at a few of the more well-known and relevant titles in the industry. First, Angry Birds. This game was the first app to ever reach 1 billion downloads. They managed to get such a nice user base and a fan base even that Rovio has decided to even release a TV channel for their fan base. Very interesting. We also have Supercell's Clash of Clans, who have been fighting together with King's Candy Crush side to side to see which one could get more revenues each year. In 2014, they managed to gross 1.8 billion. Pretty impressive. Last year's one of the biggest news was the acquisition of King by Activision Blizzard. And it was not only relevant because of its size, 5.9 billion, or because it was something that not everybody expected, but because it showed how much traditional game publishers value the mobile industry. And talking about Activision Blizzard, and now King, they also wanted a piece of a pie, releasing their own game, Hearthstone, which we have to say did quite good and is doing quite good, with over 30 million active users so far. Every market experienced more or less the same growth phase. You have introduction, growth, maturity, and decline. I dare to say that at this point in mobile gaming, we are past the midpoint in the growth phase. But this does not mean that you can expect the mobile video game industry to stop growing. Actually, we have a lot of way ahead of us. We have new markets, developing countries that have still to be reached by the mobile phones. We have new users, new generations of users, before we can consider that everybody is a gamer. And we also have technological advances, like, for example, virtual reality Oculus Rift, which Facebook is trying to reach the masses this year. And many other aspects, as smart TVs, the App Stores, the Apple TVs, etc. So, furthermore, there's also a very interesting branching that came out of gaming, and it's the esports, or what we also know as competitive gaming. Tournaments has risen a lot, and in the past years, it's been growing up to par with the mobile gaming industry. Every year, the millions and millions of views, prices, and revenues from these services increase. And this market has not really reached mobile yet. Even though Activision Blizzard have tried to start getting into it with the game Hearthstone, it's an area still to be explored within mobile gaming. So all in all, we have plenty of challenges and opportunities ahead. One of the biggest challenges that video game in the mobile industry developers are experiencing is the high customer acquisition cost, which, as the market matures, will grow steeper. This influences also the importance of the user retention rate that they need to have. Furthermore, this also influences a very important aspect is the monetization efficiency and their strategies to improve the revenues they get of their games. Finally, it's also very important to say that as the market gets as crowded as it is today, with already millions and millions of very similar games, it will be very important to differentiate themselves from the competition. But this presents also very interesting opportunities. For example, how to differentiate yourself with new business models or iterations in existing ones. This would be a very interesting aspect that developers have to analyze and improve. Also, with being the first movers in new technologies or new markets. All in all, what's very important for video game publishers and what they will need to focus on in the upcoming years is to manage to create their own blue ocean and make the competition irrelevant. But we'll see how they manage to do it in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Albert, for this interesting overview. And now we must take advantage of the panelists that we have here today. So my very first question goes straight to the point that we are talking about. It's looking forward. How do you see this, industry, mobile gaming, moving in the next 5 to 10 years? I know that 10 years may look like too long of a time to consider, but at least 5 years. What do you see? What are the things that you see happening then?
Ladies first, no? Always.
Sure. So there's several trends that I think are very interesting that are going on right now. One of them that I'm very excited about has to do with user acquisition and growing your audience. And that has to do with growing the audience of game players through influencers. And this is something that I'm very interested about. Actually, Chartboost just acquired a company called Rooster that is connecting game developers with influencers. And this is about connecting with YouTubers that are playing games and recording themselves, and they have an audience and they have subscribers, and they are talking passionately about the games that they're excited about. And that is where 95% of the gamers right now are getting their news about games. They're getting their news about games in videos, not in reading. So I think there's a huge opportunity in the future for game developers to connect with this new audience that is super engaged through influencers. I think there's other trends that have to do with technology and with business models and esports, but maybe I'm going to let the rest of you talk a little bit about the future.
No, definitely this point about influencers, it's something what we are seeing, and it's super successful. It's becoming super relevant into discovering games. We have been using influencers in the last years, and we saw really good results about important YouTubers playing Dragon City, playing World Chef, and then a lot of people following and downloading the game. So really nice decision, Maria. In terms of trends, I think there is several trends we can talk about. In my opinion, we are very optimistic with the mobile market because we are seeing that the market still grows and grows, even if some people is concerned because the selling of devices has slowed a little bit in terms of growing. But what is true is a lot of studios are saying that, and you know it, mobile it's part of our lives. We are very, very engaged with our mobile devices. And people who play games, which is more and more, is spending more and more time playing these games. We have created a new culture of playing with people, interacting with people through the games, and that's happening more and more and more. Probably, meanwhile we are speaking here, there is a lot of people playing Dragon City, Candy Crush here in the same room, so that's good. Remember to pay often. And World Chef also. And probably a lot of people is discovering new games through Chartboost into the games, and they are downloading right now. So which is great. It's great that the usage of gaming in mobile is growing and growing, and that's why we are optimistic. In terms of trends, lots of things will evolve. I'm pretty sure that the freemium model it is still young, and it will evolve in ways that we cannot imagine right now in 5 to 10 years. So people is going to start playing games by free. I'm totally sure about that. But the way that they pay or why they pay, it's going to change. Okay. Esports has a lot to say around that. In fact, at Social Point, we are working since a year and a half in esport games that I hope we can start having a beta period soon. So that's one trend, esport. And then there is technologies, wearables, VR, where it will come. It will come. The only interesting thing about these new technologies is when the mass market will adopt it. It is hard still to define when VR will be used by millions of users frequently, but it will happen. So the important thing is to start working soon in order to arrive to the right moment. So very interesting and pretty excited because we are seeing how mobile is becoming more and more important in the society, and that's good for mobile companies like us.
So as a follow-up then, can we expect influencers and the freemium business model to be the one defining the future of the industry? Jean, what do you think? I mean,
let me start by saying I don't like the word freemium
okay.
For a specific reason, because freemium is a hybrid of free and premium. It somehow means that the game is free but crippled, and then you have a premium game that you had paid for. That's actually not the case, and not to defend King or anybody else, but I think the best free-to-play games are not crippled in any way for the player. They are the best possible experience, and you have opportunities to spend to progress faster. So I think free-to-play is here to stay. I agree with Horacio. There's still ways to explore that we haven't explored, that we haven't seen yet. There's a lot of interesting stuff happening if you look at the market. There's subscription models that nobody has really cracked yet on mobile. There's absolutely the possibility to combine subscription and microtransactions. I think, if anything, we will see this free-to-play evolve and also diffuse out to other platforms. So that's here to stay, for sure.
Okay. Jan, how do you see the future in this respect?
I just want to defend a little bit the freemium model for a few
seconds. Please, no, I love controversy, and I actually ask the people in the panel to please fight a little bit on stage, because this makes much more interesting the conversation. So what do you think about it?
I'm not sure it's a real controversy, but I think in general, Freemium model allowed a lot of people to play. People who would not have had the envy or the envy just to spend on a game. Prior to this, you had to have a big PC or console, so that's already a big barrier to entry. Right now, everybody has a console in form of a smartphone in the pocket. And on top of it, they can download like thousands of games of very high quality. So I think for the user itself, I think it's a big, big step. In terms of the model itself, the business model, I think it's actually a very good business model. I mean, it applies, I mean, you guys come from the academic background, so you know more than me, but it applies the price segmentation here. So someone who doesn't have spending power doesn't have to spend. Someone who has high spending power can spend a lot. So it adapts naturally to the spending power of the player. Spending power or will to spend. So I think also on this regard, it's a very, very good model. Then in terms of where it may go or disappear, I don't think it will ever disappear. I think people are very used to free. I think everybody gets used to free very easily, me the first. So I think it's just a model that will evolve over time. I think subscription can be one. It can be a mix of subscription and freemium. It can be a mix of product placement. So it's all about how this will evolve, at my sense, rather than disappear. So both from a user, a player standpoint, I think it's a good thing. And for business also it's a good thing. As I said, it dropped one of the biggest barriers to entry in terms of initial cost to start playing. The other thing is, unlike the web, where if you want to get to a new website, you're one click away, on mobile, you have to download an app. And it's a big, big step for a lot of people. Because it's time, because you have to remember your password. My mother never remembers her password. I'm sure she's not the only one. And then some games now are 30 megabytes, it's fine, but some of them are near to a gigabyte. Yeah, so it's a big, big barrier to entry. So you want to remove as many barriers to entry as possible.
So let's continue this discussion because we have someone in favor of the freemium, at least as an expression. We can discuss the implications. But Maria, Horacio, how do you see freemium? Do you see freemium as the way to go?
So freemium right now on mobile can work because we have crazy volume. But that doesn't mean freemium is going to be the model in which like other games in other platforms succeed. For example, in virtual reality and in smart TVs, there's not enough volume of players, so we're seeing a lot of premium games again. Games that you have to pay $5 for, $10 for. So I find that trend very interesting because it feels like it's the future, but we're going back in terms of business model. And I'd love to hear like the game developers' thoughts on that.
It's a simple answer. There's like the reason why people go back to that model is because the reach is not there, which in turn immediately caps the market size. So I think whenever you talk about mass market, huge scale, it's already proven enough that this is the way to move forward. And if you think about it, the most popular PC game on the planet today is League of Legends, which is a free-to-play game. So I think that ship has sailed. There's been, like with any new thing, there have been some mistakes and some really bad experiences, but I think none of us want that as developers. We want to have the best experience and have this kind of volition in there where you don't feel forced or coerced into spending, but it's part of your life, it's part of your culture, and if you want to spend, you have the opportunity and you feel good about it.
I definitely agree. For us, it's clear. Calling the model freemium, free-to-play, for me, it's not a big deal. It's not a big change. We really believe in the model. We believe that the model will keep evolving, but what we are sure is that people will pay of what they want to pay. So, and people will like always to try things and explore things and enjoy things before they pay. Why they pay, that's another reason, no? But it will happen always in this order. They try, they engage, and later they pay. It's true that freemium model, it only works when there is a huge mass of people playing that, but if that's the thing, no? If we want to make games that makes millions a month, we need this huge mass of people playing. So I think it's just a question of time that new devices and new technologies arrive to these people to make the model works, but I don't think we can expect the free-to-play disappearing. At just the contrary. If you look at consoles, they are exploring and exploring the ways to move from their old business of I make a case, I sell it to you, and I forget about if you like it or not. They are moving to a new model where people get engaged and treating the games as a service. That's one of the new challenge. No, we don't create games. We create entertainment services. That's a very different mindset from the old classical AAA school to the new one.
Albert, and then
I think that we also have to take into account where we come from. So the gamers were used to spend 60, 70 euros in one game, and they got a physical copy. And when we moved to smartphones, suddenly they already had the console, so they didn't have to buy it, and they wouldn't get a physical copy. So in their mindset, it was already different. And in addition, if the game is for free, they're more inclined to try it out. And it's there where you start competing against each other, because it also changed a lot the development cost of games. We were talking about millions and millions, and suddenly you have games that, professional, real good games that are done for 100K, or even less, some of them. So you have to take all of this into account and then put it in a very new market where you suddenly have a huge amount of potential buyers that you really want to attract. So this all shifted how the business models used to work and allowed for new ones to enter.
Another point in defense of the model. It's free, okay, it's freemium, so it's not free. But the reality is it still delivers very high quality. So if it was free and bad quality, that would be one thing. But it's actually very high quality. The production quality nowadays are just growing again and again. In some cases, we're getting some comparable to AAA games on consoles. So I think in general, it's just adding to the quality of the games because we want to attract users. But the other point is it's not a product that we are selling. Selling a product is you buy it, you have it, that's it. It's finished. Here it's a service. To make money out of a service, you need to deliver very, very good service. So you need to make sure that people who come, engage with the game, have a very good experience. Otherwise, there are thousands of other games for them to go and test. So you need to deliver not only a very good service initially, but you have to deliver a very good service over time. You have to create new content. You have to create more challenges. So instead of seeing things, the freemium model as a poor model for users, I think it's actually a very good model for users because the quality in general, as I said, does evolve.
So thank you, because you are bringing up a topic that is connected, and I would like to continue the discussion building up on this, because on the one hand, the fact that everybody now has a gaming device has made the market much larger. The fact that the freemium business model has popularized, has made a lot of games available in just a few seconds. And on an average afternoon with my son, he could download 5 to 10 different games and then try it out. Now, the point is that this has also created a big market where it's very difficult to be visible. No? There are hundreds of games. There are lots of different opportunities for you to download, try it out, and throw it away. How can we secure, visibility on the one hand, and then engagement? What are the critical elements there?
I'm the one which is the poorest here. Those guys was billions. Those soon will be billions. Chartboost, I don't know the exact, but they're much richer than us. So I'm seeing this very, very strongly in face of me. So it's a wall, but it's not a hard wall. I think there's different ways to look at it. First of all is what type of game you're doing. I believe that there's still blue oceans. This is actually one of the positioning of our company was to go in a blue ocean, an area of gaming that was underserved, the hardcore gamers. So if you position yourself into an area where there's less people, of course, there's less chance that you're going to fight the big boys of the gaming.
You were not pointing in any particular direction.
The big boys.
The big boys. No?
The big boys in general. So that's the number one thing. If you go after a version 2084 of Candy Crush, you're going to have a hard life. So you better look at what you want to do. I was talking with someone earlier who was, maybe I shouldn't say all of it, but thinking of mixing dating with gaming. It's maybe not a bad idea. I don't know, I haven't investigated this, but the idea is to think a little bit different, is to think of where can I thrive where others are not going to stamp over me. So that's the number one, is the product. The number two is the same thing. How can you be, I was going to say smart, those guys are smart, of course, but how can you think a little bit different? When there's scarcity, you have to think twice or 10 times more. So Maria is talking about influencers. That's a big, big thing. So if you manage to get visible around influencers, and that doesn't necessarily involve money, it involves also the quality of your game. So if you manage to show and to prove to some influencers that you have a crazy good game that is different, then you can have some visibility. I'm not 100% sure of this story, but if I remember correctly, or if I trust what I've been told, is the guys who had Flappy Birds, that was this big, crazy hit out of nowhere, out of Vietnam, and it was just an influencer, or Twitter, who had 20,000 followers that tweeted, and he took off from there. And the guy didn't spend €1 on advertising. Same thing for Vainglory. Vainglory is this big company doing mobile games in the US. They haven't spent money on acquisition. Okay, at least they haven't spent a lot of money. But the game was extremely good. They were featured by Apple. Guess what? They had amazing visibility. So as long as you create something that is slightly different, amazing quality, you will find some traction. You have to work for it, maybe, but you will find some traction. And the last thing is, if your focus is on developing an amazing game, then you can find people that will help you promote it. And I'm talking here about publishers. So publishers, that's their role. How do we make this game, this product, thrive? Visible to the gurus and the Apples of this world, visible on social media, visible, so you can get some help here. Yeah. There's more to it, but I want to take it.
So how do you see that, guys? I mean, is a good product enough? Maria, what do we have to do to be visible? I mean, you have a lot of experience on this and influencers.
Well, yeah, I mean, you've touched on a bunch of areas that are very true. I think that you can be successful in making your game well known. There are many ways, and one way would be leveraging past success. And I think both King and Social Point, you have like a bunch of games already, and you can cross-promote them, and you have like more games and ways to very creatively cross-promote your other games and leverage all the players that you already have. At Chartboost, we also offer that technology for developers to build on the strength they've already built. But games that start from zero, and that's what I love about influencers. There's the spending money. When your game actually makes money, you can find a publisher, find an investor, or find your money and go and spend that money, because you know you're going to make that money when your game gets players. These players can become engaged, and with their engagement, they decide to spend money. The area with influencers is about seducing YouTubers of the coolness of your game. And all of the ways for you to grow your game start with you having an amazing game. It's either an amazing game because you've built it in the past and your players trust you, and therefore they're willing to install the games that you bring up. It's because you have an amazing game that will make money, therefore you can invest some of that money buying players, or because you have an amazing game and you're going to seduce influencers into playing your game, maybe by paying, maybe by just because they consider it fun, and that will help you reach a big audience. But it all starts with having an amazing game that brings something new to the table.
So we have a necessary but not sufficient condition there, a great game, Horacio, and then we go to the big boys. I mean, I think we have to respect,
For me, if I have to summarize it, it's mainly three things. First one, high innovation.
Okay.
Doing another match 3 games, it's very difficult to get the attention of the user. So people is expecting to something new, to new ideas, to new experiences. It's why innovation is very important. In 2 weeks, we are going to launch a game which get the essence of 80s and 90s games, and we are going to try to innovate a lot because there is no game with this genre in mobile, and we'll try to create our blue ocean, and we bet a lot into the game. High innovation, a lot of challenges, especially regarding monetization and lots of things, but we really believe that innovation has to be key in order to be successful. The second, virality and social. For me, it is connected. And there is still a lot of things to explore in order how people play together. There is still a lot of things to do in order to, games have to build communities behind the game. People want to cooperate, people want to compete, people want to help each other, people want to meet new people inside the games. And there is some games that they are doing things like that, but there is a lot of things to explore. So I see games as a social point where people, well, it's related to the company.
You see games as social point. I'm pleased with this. I mean, he will be very happy with you.
So I see people connecting through games, meeting new people through games. We need a lot to explore that. And then there is a third factor where Maria will be very happy. It's money to invest. So if you are launching a new product, there is a budget on marketing. How to do this marketing action, there is a lot of ways. I think influencer, we have to do it. I think it's not necessarily to have a super big budget, but there is a marketing action that you have to do. And that's why our investors' money, they always go like Chartboost, which is a really good choice. But it is important to make people aware about your game, and I think you have to combine these three things if you want to be realistic and have some chance.
Yeah, so Jan, how do the big boys see this?
Well, I think it's interesting because there's so much focus on the discovery and marketing issue. And I think, honestly, from my experience, it is much, much, much harder to make a great game than it is to market a great game. Disproportionately harder. And I think that's the much bigger barrier because anybody who does games, Horacio knows that, if you King has developed 200 games in the last 12 years, and we have one Candy Crush.
Exactly.
We have a couple of other very, very great games, right? Top 5 grossing games, but that's the kind of funnel you need to look at. And if you take into account that the customer expectation goes higher and higher production values, if you need to account for 4 or 5 canceled projects at different stages before you hit one game that makes it to market, that's the kind of investment you first need to think about. And to get to one that has the right numbers so you actually have an opportunity to grow something, that's much, much harder. Yes, we do have an advantage out of the gate, but if we're not honest to ourselves, if we're not disciplined and harsh to ourselves and stop projects when we see that the numbers aren't what they are supposed to be, we would be foolish to push it into the market because players leave even faster than you can get them on board.
Yeah.
So you need to be extremely disciplined, and I think the spending is not there. There's enough opportunities out there. There's, in terms of opportunity, another thing, we're talking a lot about rising acquisition costs, but that basically means advertising. And advertising is both a challenge and an opportunity. You mentioned before, I think only Facebook is rivaling games in terms of attention time, screen time that people spend on the phones. So where do you think most of that advertising money is going? So you're back to the same retention games, like those who keep players engaged the longest in front of their screen are the ones that also will profit from that opportunity in the future. So I'd say if you're in that position where you're starting something, focus all your energy on making the best game first, be honest to yourself, restart rather early, fail fast, fail often, but make a great game, and then think about discovery.
This is another of the very interesting topics that we were discussing just before coming on stage, that is how difficult it is to replicate success. You may be able to launch a great game, hit it hard in the market, but then when you have to go back, even if you have the money, you have the influencers, you have a new game, at times it's very difficult. So why do you think this happens? I mean, what are the key elements to be able to hit it hard for the second or the third time?
Well, it's a really interesting question. I don't think nobody has the perfect formula to guarantee you start a game and it will be a top 5 game. Which is true is that the industry is not as hit-driven business as some people think. It's not like that. And having a great game, it's not a question of luck, like other people think. There is a process where you have to have a really good process. You need a high talented team. You need a good mindset, a good methodology. You need the right criteria. You need to understand what are you expecting from the game. And then, if you have all these factors, then you will have high chances to achieve a great game after many months working and trying and experimenting, iterating. So every company is different. Every company has its culture. Supercell is completely different to King. Both companies, they have proved that they are able to launch top 5 games. No? And as we are different and we have our own culture to keep repeating launching successful games, like the last one that we launched at World Chef. No? So everybody has to find his own formula, but which is, you can never believe that it's a question of luck, and by keep trying and launching 10 games a year, you will achieve to have one that is successful. It's nothing like that. You have to believe into the game, you have to understand what you were to arrive, you have to try a lot, you have to build a team behind that, you have to be persistent, you need to have a lot of creativity into the team. And if you follow the right process, if you follow the right things, and you know exactly what a great game has to have and you fulfill it, then you will have high chances to achieve it. It's a long process, no? There is a lot of industries that probably people who do cars, they follow their special formula, no? to build successful cars. And mobile gaming is a young industry and has born just 5 years ago. So everybody is still finding his own process, finding his own formula. But which is true is that if you find this process and you are persistent with your strategy, you will finally achieve it.
Mm-hmm. Jean-Laurent?
Yeah, I agree with Horacio. I think there are some things that you have to do to be able to replicate. There's a couple of things. Actually, I compare often the gaming market with the film, the movie industry. And you see that there's always new film coming out, a lot of successful films. So it's just a question of finding your process, your way of identifying what is going to work for you. For us, we're going into one segment. We want to iterate in this segment. So it's a bit of a research and development. In general, if I compare again, it comes, the gaming industry with the movie industry, it comes down to who you have in your team. I'm going to give a very simple and stupid example. It's like if you get Steven Spielberg on your team to create a movie, how big is the chance that you're going to create a good movie? Very high. It may be not going to be a blockbuster, but it's very high. So having extremely good people who know what they're doing, who have achieved this, putting the process in place so they have the space to look, to iterate, to be creative, but also the process in place to make sure that you cut when you realize this is not going anywhere, let's go to another path. This is the way to work. And I remember also reading about the Pixar story. So they released the first movie and it was a massive hit. And the biggest problem for the founder of Pixar was, how can I replicate this? Mm-hmm. And it comes down to this. It comes down to the people you have, the process that you put in place, the space that you give them to test, and the process to make sure that they don't test for years and years. You cut and you pass to something else. Mm-hmm. I think overall is this.
Okay.
I have a question to add up to that. I was wondering, how many games have you killed, like in the last year or two, of prototypes that you're creating, decided they're not good enough? Because killing games is part of the innovation process, and I was just wondering, like, how much killing is there going in your companies?
Quite a lot. I mean,
are we in the
to talk about a company that's not on the table, I can give you an example, and that illustrates the numbers. So Supercell is about to launch their fourth and very likely top-grossing game now in March. And what we know publicly is that they at least killed 2 more games in that time before. If you compare the size where they are, I would argue that it's at least a factor of 3 or 4 more that they killed along various stages in the process before. I think it depends. It depends on the experience of the team that you have. Teams that have gone through many cycles, either successful or non-successful, we actually celebrate those failures. It's very important to us because it's not about you failing as a person. It's you tried something and you learned something, and next time you're going to do it better.
And how is that process a king?
A celebration. It's a celebration. We do a party.
So you do a party when you
literally.
kill a game?
I'm not joking. We're doing a party. Like it's
a great level.
Whenever there's a game, especially if that game already is in what we call playtest or soft launch, so it's already some data behind it, and we decide to stop. We do a celebration. We thank the team wholeheartedly, and they're going to go and they have a celebration. They do a party, literally. So, because we've learned something. We've learned something about the genre, we've learned something about what works and what doesn't work, and that's what makes us much, much stronger in the future.
So who decides to kill the game? Is the team
The big
developing
boss.
it?
In reality, the data. To be we're very rational, we're very disciplined, we're strongly data-driven, and that avoids also that you lie to yourself. I mean, at the end of the day, when everybody who is in a creative process knows how strongly you're attached to your creation, right? So data is the only way to make this level. And if the numbers simply aren't there, you need to be honest. Then there's two options. Do we have major things that we know have worked in the past that could change the trajectory here, or is that something where we should be realistic? And rather than having an agonizing pain of another year trying to make it work and struggling and fighting and arguing, it's like, let's make a cut here, go have a beer and start something new tomorrow.
Yeah, I wanted to bring attention to that because I believe it's one of the most important skills of a gaming company, that you're good at killing and that you're good at celebrating, like learning from failure. And I think it's something that all companies, like gaming and non-gaming, should learn from. And I admit, we're not good at that at Chartboost. We've failed at projects, and instead of killing them and celebrating everything we've learned, we've kind of decided to take people off the project and stopped investing. And then when it's very obvious that the project is dead, then we kind of tell people that it's but we don't make a big announcement, a big party, a big celebration, a big thank you. And it's a key process of innovation. And game developers are way more into this cycle of coming up with new things and innovating. It's something we can all learn
Circling
from.
back on one of the things before, I think the much bigger advantage that companies like King or let's say EA or UB have, I think, is that if we cancel a title, apart from having good data, I mean, it's the fact that it doesn't kill us. It doesn't kill our business because we have the capacity to absorb that, and we have built enough development capacity to, regardless of that process that we factor in, we know we're going to have titles launching. If you're in the first 2 years of a startup, I think that discussion becomes a matter of life and death, right? So are you going to survive or not?
Yeah.
So yeah,
Just to finish on this,
sure.
we have to be even more ruthless here. It's very much at the beginning of the process. Do we believe something can happen here? Do we believe that this has a potential or not? And we don't have months and months. We have to kill it directly and start with something fresh that we strongly believe in. So it's even more restless. They have time. They can wait years and years. No, we have to deliver something big.
The big boys. So there is a key learning here. I mean, in order to build a successful gaming company, you need to be good at killing and you need to be good at celebrating. Now, I want to encourage you to play a game, if you allow me. We have 8 minutes and a half left. We have a big room over here, so I'm going to challenge everyone to ask questions, even among yourselves, and the answers need to be 10 seconds or less. Okay? So I'm going to launch the first one, and we're going to open it for anyone in the audience as well. You raise your hand, someone will pass a micro. My first question over here is, please, is virtual reality the future? Yes or no, and why? Quickly. Is virtual reality the future? I mean, today we are talking about virtual, less than 10 seconds. Okay, here we go.
Virtual reality is in the future.
Is in the future, okay.
Well, the big challenge is to make it mainstream.
Okay, very good. Anyone else wants to react quickly?
It's in the future, but not yet. It's going to take five more years, I'd say.
Okay, 5 more years. Question over here in the audience, please.
Hello. In 3 words, difference between gamification and games.
Okay. What? Difference between gamification and games.
Games have gamification, but you don't need to have a game to build on gamification. Gamification is basically use the structure of games out of a game. So perhaps doing in a business kind of a game to build up the productivity in there. So they're similar, but not exactly the same.
Okay, time's up.
Oh, time is up, okay. So I think gamification is reusing mechanics from the games to engage people in another topic. For example, studying, doing exams, and so on. So it's not a game in itself, but it's taking some fun side and some maybe retention mechanics to another topic. And it's been proven to work really well.
Okay, do we have any more questions in the audience over here? gentleman in the first row. This morning I was with a very big company, 30,000 people, and the HR manager was actually telling me, Luis, do you really believe in this gamification? Is this something that really has an impact? What do you think?
Well, this is for all the non-games to figure out.
Okay. Jan, do you think...
If you ask me, games is an entertainment product, gamification is a buzzword, I'm going to be honest.
Gamification is a buzzword. Here we have another big, please.
So yeah, very short. Cloud gaming, good idea or not?
Sorry, cloud gaming, good idea or not? Cloud gaming.
It's a complex idea.
Complex idea. So
it's... we are nobody to say if something is a good idea or a bad idea, but I think the market experiences from other companies is that it's complex. And from my experience, where things are complex since the beginning, I'm not sure if it delivers to the path of success. I'm a true believer of simple things. Cloud gaming, I find it more complex, and it can go against some of the native things, no, that people is looking for. So I think it will be difficult to find the successful way to implement it into the actual mobile gaming like we have seen mobile up to now.
Mm-hmm.
Great experiences make great games, not technology. So I think that's my main point. So if it adds something to the experience, maybe there is a case. If it doesn't, don't bother.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Any more questions in the audience? Over here, up there? We are going to make it, we are making the micro run up and down. Any question between yourselves? Anything that you would like to ask?
Well, about VR, I think it's hard to know if it will be the future or not. What is true is that we have to still wait 2-3 years minimum. It will be part of the future, but we don't know if it will be the future. Okay. We don't know if in 5 years everybody is going to have here the Oculus,
it's difficult to have.
We are not going to see each other's faces. So it's
difficult to have the crystal ball. Please,
but
question.
If you read Ready Player One, it's an interesting book. I recommend it.
Okay, thank you.
So my question is, having the big boys dominating the charts, do you think indie developers has any chance to survive and becoming a big player?
Yes, but it gets tougher every year because the market is maturing, the level of production quality goes up, cost goes up, so it will get tougher. We will see it rarer and rarer, I think, that it happens. So that's my view.
And to add on this, nowadays with the amount of people coming on playing on mobile phones, on tablets, you have actually, let's put it differently. Before you had to be in the top 10 to make a lot of money. Now you can be in the top 400, 300, and you're still making a lot of money. So even for small companies, you don't really have to be in the top 10. You don't have to. If you want to make good money, you can be in the top hundreds, and you're still making really good money.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I would say there's definitely a chance for indie developers. And another good thing that indies have right now is access to a lot of technology platforms that companies 5 years ago didn't have, and they had to invent themselves. So they had to become good at making games and at building the technology platform to make those games scale and succeed. And as an indie right now, you have access to real-time technology and back-end tools and a bunch of cross-promotion technology, a bunch of other things that you can just skip that and focus just on making great games.
And actually for the big boys, if they make, how much are you guys making? Okay, let's say billions per year. If you want to grow 10%, that's hundreds of millions. So they have a huge task to grow, 10%. We don't have a huge task to grow 10%. That's easy for us.
Okay, back to big boys.
I agree. I think the question was about the top of the charts, and I totally agree with what you're saying. The tail is getting fatter and fatter. The market is growing a lot in the tail, but my personal prediction is that at the top range, we've seen a very inert charts in the top 5 crossing over the last 3 years, I would say. I don't think that this will change materially. If anything, it will be more like this, because unless you have even if you have a great game, you don't make TV advertising within one day. You don't have the cash. You need to have it's tough. So it'll be less. It will be harder. It doesn't mean it's impossible. It's a hit-driven business. It can happen anytime, but it's just harder.
We have time for a last question in the audience. Do you have a last question over here? Are the big boys, the traditional big boys, going to make it? Are the big boys going to make it? The traditional ones, not the new big boys.
Are they going to make it?
Are they going to make it? Yes, the traditional game companies, do you think? Maybe?
I mean, all of them are there, right? So.
Sorry.
Yes, simple yes or no. The future of the video games goes to business intelligence or big data.
The future of the games, is it related to big data?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Yes. There is consensus. It's linked. Now, in the final
It
minutes,
is actually part of the success formula of having a great game. It's understanding how to use big data. It's the only way where you can understand what our users are behaving into your game and what you have to focus and improve.
And to answer your question about traditional gaming companies in that sense, I think a lot of them struggled and still struggle with the difference of making a great game, shipping it, and then going on vacation and forgetting about it. Whereas our real work starts and increases the moment we launch the title, exponentially. So that's where data comes in. It's a key.
yeah. I think the best experience out of a panel like this is to feel short in time. I honestly feel that we would love to have at least 20 to 30 minutes more, and I would like to finish this just with a big applause to thank all the panelists for their contributions, their ideas, and this great show. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you to you all as well.